Hi, and welcome back to Bruce's 928. So my son and I get the car back to BC, and I'm feeling pretty good. The car survived the trip, and all I need to do is get it into a shop to get some of these problems resolved. I look around Vancouver to find a Porsche specialty shop, and I call to make an appointment. But the problem is, they're busy. They can't get the car in for over a week. And it's killing me. I can't drive this beautiful car that I've just bought. It's off the road. I need to get an inspection on this car before I can register it in BC, so I need to get it into a shop. I finally get it in, and I have a list of things I need them to fix. The instrument panel turns out to be a short in the system, and it was caused because at one point the battery had been replaced with one of the wrong size, so the terminals shorted out against the lid of the metal battery box. The timing belt warning light was because the timing belt was not tensioned properly. Turns out that there's a special instrument that you need to measure the tension of the timing belt that only a Porsche specialist would have because it's very expensive. And without it, it's pretty much impossible to set the tension of the timing belt properly. I'm sure that the shop that had done the work previously didn't have it. They weren't a Porsche specialist, and that's probably why it had never been done properly in the first place. But the shop that I took it to, they wouldn't retension it after it had been installed for that length of time. So the only resolution was to replace the timing belt, and it's a huge job. The timing belt on a 928, it's the longest timing belt that's ever been put in a production car. It's over 7 feet long, and it does take a lot of work to get that service done. They also found that the leaking power steering fluid was coming from the rack. Pretty much the most expensive component of the steering system. And on top of all of that, they found that the motor mounts were disintegrated and needed to be replaced, and that they wouldn't pass the inspection on the car until that was done because they said it really wasn't safe to be on the road. Problem was the parts needed to be ordered. Some had to come from Germany. I had all these expensive repairs, and I had to wait more time to try and get the car fixed. So with all these problems, I actually called the guy I bought the car from and said, you know, your mechanic really should have had an indication that some of these things were going to be a problem. And it was a bit ballsy, but I said, you know, I think that you should discount the car by $2,000. And he agreed. So he was a really good guy. Eventually got the car on the road after about 2 months, but I didn't get the timing belt done because they wanted so much money to fix it. And I found another Porsche shop that would do it for about $2,500. And in talking to some other people, I found that that was more of the price that I should be paying to get the timing belt done. While it was in there, I asked them to go over the entire car and let me know what should be done and what can wait. I really wanted to get this car in good shape. And they came back with a list of things that needed to be done. And that list included the timing belt and the water pump, all of the V-belts, the distributor cap, rotors, plugs, points. I actually replaced all of the ignition wires. I replaced the driver's window motor because during this time, from the time I got the car until now, it had stopped working. I flushed the PSD hydraulic system and we did the brakes. We did power steering hoses. The crank pulley, it had been bent. It looked like a previous mechanic had put a set of vice grips on it, so I needed to replace that. That was a $600 item. And then the one thing I did cosmetically is I had bought a set of Boxster wheels. So as a result of that, there was also a front wheel bearing that needed to be replaced, and I did a wheel alignment. I started to think, why did I buy this car actually? I had no idea it was going to cost me so much money. And by this time, I had now spent more on the car than I spent for the car. So I was starting to wonder, when is all this bad news going to end?